We left off, the Torah tells us, Vayira Hashem el Avram. Hashem appears to Avram, Pasuk Zayin. Vayomer, the Zaracha Etein es Oretz Hazos. To your progeny, I will give this land. Even Sham Mizbeyach Lashem Nir Elov. Avram builds an altar to commemorate this communication to Hashem who appeared to him. It doesn't say, many times, it doesn't say that he brought a sacrifice. It's like establishing a monument to commemorate an event. The Mizbeyach, what is Mizbeyach? It's the location one serves God. The acknowledgement that this location, God appeared to him to tell him that to your children, I will give you this land. Acknowledgement of what that communication was, that's the value of building this altar. To indicate and to make known minimally to himself, and if others would ask, that is the value of this altar. So here Rashi explains, even Shem Mizbeyach, Al Besuras Hazera. Why did he build? Because in this communication he says, Lezaracha, at this moment he has no children. But Hashem is telling me to Lezaracha, to your progeny, meaning he will have children. Al Besuras Eretz Yisrael. And he's informing him about, he's giving him the land. Until now he said, Eschol Goy Godol, I will make you into great people, into a great nation. I will give you wealth, I will give you renown. In this pasuk, he's confirming what he originally said, to your children, I will give you this land. Now he added something. He's giving the land. He never mentioned before that he was going to give the land of Canaan to Avram as a gift, as an eternal gift. But this is included in this communication. L'zaracha etein es Oretz Hazos. To your progeny, I will give this land. B'absurus Eretz Yisrael. Okay? So it's a Vayivan Shem Mizbeyach Lashem Nir Elov. He built a Mizbeyach to acknowledge the event that Hashem appeared to him. So Rav Chaim Kodesh explains it slightly differently than Rashi. If you have a Mikros Goals, he says like this, says beautiful. Kavonas HaKosuf, the intent of the Posuk at this moment, Lodia Hafloga Schibas Avram Bekono, to make known the exceptional love that Avram had for his maker. Ki Hashem Nigla Elov, Ubisho Bezero Besinas Oretz. Hashem informs him that he's going to have children. He's 75 years old at this time. He hasn't had children. So to be informed you're going to have children, it's something you get very excited. It evokes a level of joy which is not to be described. The land is going to be yours. Although the land, we said also, was part of the vision that was given to Shem's children. But you being a descendant of Shem, it's exclusively yours. It's not the others, it's yours. Tremendous. The level of joy is tremendous. So why did he build the Mizbeyach? Beis malos tovas lekulam be'erich simchoso begilu shchinoso yizbar shmo. But yet these two events, l'chlum, it's considered nothing compared to his joy. Excuse me. That Hashem appeared to him. Shechinoso l'kayim hashenema sova smochos is ponecho. David Mel says, sova smochos is ponecho. I am sated with joy when I see your countenance. That is what it's all about. Everything that other than that, regardless of especially, it pales compared to that. Doesn't he build the Mizbeyach for what he experienced? The Torah is very specific. He built the Mizbeyach Lashem Anir Elov to commemorate the event that Hashem appeared to him. So the joy that he's expressing, the event that he wants to commemorate, what about the children? What about the land? It's so infinitesimal compared to what? To the experience that Hashem appeared to him. I'll give you an example. Person hasn't seen his father, who he loves, for 40 years. And his father's a world-renowned figure. And finally, he sees him after 40 years, and he's ecstatic. And father, being a world-renowned figure, he gives him his autograph. His father gives him his autograph. Is he excited about that his father gave him his autograph? Or he hasn't seen his father for 40 years, and now he's able to see him. The autograph is meaningless. His father gave him one autograph. It has value. But compared to meeting his father, who hasn't seen for 40 years, it doesn't register. You can have children, the land's yours. You know what it means? Hashem appears to him. Now, the question is this. If it would have been the first time God appeared to him, I understand. But yet, Hashem already appeared to him. When he gave him originally in Choran, he says, leave your land, your birthplace, your father's home, go to the land I will show you. It's not the first communication. So why is he commemorating the event now of having the communication with God already communicating with him earlier? You have the question I'm asking. So maybe that's why Rashi goes with the Midrash, that it wasn't for the communication. It was what the communication was about. As Rashi says, Al Besuras Zera, he's been informed he's going to have children, and Eretz Yisrael is going to be his. That's Lashem and Nir Elov, because he already had. So why is he being so ecstatic about this? But yet, the Orach Chaim is deducing this from the language. Because the way the words read, he built him Mizbeyach Lashem and Nir Elov to commemorate the event that God appeared to him. I mean, but I understand Orach Chaim is basing it on the words, but factually speaking, it's not the first experience. It's not the first communication. So why is the joy such a level of joy? David himself quotes the pasuk in Tehillim, Soba smochus esponecho. I am sated with joy when I see your countenance. David was a Navi. But David says, every time I see your countenance, I max out on joy. Soba smochus. So how do we understand it? So I was thinking two things. I just thought of a question at this moment as I'm speaking. I had never thought of this question before. Although I was aware of the Orach Chaim HaKodesh in the past. Two things. The Gemara tells us that, before we go to the Gemara, the Mishnah tells us, Pirkei Avos, that if 10 people study Torah, Shechina Beinayim. If 5 people are studying Torah, Shechina Beinayim. If 3 people are studying Torah, Shechina Beinayim. The Shechina is with them, the divine presence. 2 people study Torah, Shechina Beinayim. Even if 1 person studies Torah, Shechina Beinayim. So, what is the Tana in the Mishnah Pirkei Avos start with 10, 5, 3, 2, and 1? Say, even if 1 person studies Torah, Shechina Beinayim is with him. So the Maharal of Prague explains that we studied this in the past in the Yad Avram. We studied the Maharal's commentary of Pirkei Avos. He says, when we say Shechina Beinayim in each one of these instances, it's not the same level. When we say 10 Shechina Beinayim, it's a different level of Shechina. That's the most advanced level of Shechina, a more intense level of communication or presence. 5, it's less. You'd say maybe after 5, maybe not at all. No, even 3 there is. Even 2 there is. Even 1 there is. But every time you speak about Shechina Beinayim, it's not the same level of Shechina. The Gemara tells us at the end of Ksubis, Kol ador b'chutz lo tzkeinu eloka. A person who lives outside of Eretz, it's like he has no God. So the way the Ramban explains, and we discussed it, every location in the world has an archangel overseeing that location. So whatever sustenance comes from Hashem, it goes through that archangel. Eretz Yisrael being Eretz HaKadosha, being the land which God oversees, there's no archangel. The Jewish people have no archangel. It's direct communication with Hashem. Therefore, we had said, when you do a mitzvah in Eretz Yisrael, the same mitzvah that you would do outside of Eretz Yisrael, it has a different degree of value. because it's considered you're in Paltan Shel Melech. You're considered in the king's palace. When you're outside of Eretz Yisrael, you're not in the palace. You're at a distance. So the level of service of mitzvah or transgression in Eretz Yisrael is much more, has greater value in the positive and much more severe in the negative. So the communication Avraham experienced in Eretz Yisrael was another level of communication. It wasn't the same as he had in Choram. When he appeared to him, says, Lech l'cha mi'aretzcha v'varchem beis avicha. It's not the same. As a result of that, he's building the Mizbeyach, the altar, to commemorate a much more advanced level of communication, which he never experienced before. That's the first thing that came to mind. The second thing came to mind is something the Malbim says, something we say every morning. Ani b'chastcho v'tachti. Right? We said every morning at the end of Hodu. Ani b'chastcho v'tachti, yogel libi b'shur secha. I have total faith in your chesed, and I rejoice with your salvation. Yogel libi b'shur secha. You say it every morning. Pasuk in Tehillim. So the Malbim asks, and he explains, what's the difference between Gila and Simcha? The word Gila means it's a level of joy, but the word Gila means it's something which reveals itself. It comes with suddenness, from the word Gilui, the galos, to reveal. So he asks, if David says, Ani b'chastcho v'tachti, I have full faith and trust in your chesed, I'm expecting it. So what's Yogel Libi B'Shur Secha? I rejoice in your Yeshua, in your salvation, as if it was unexpected. First he says, Ani b'chastcho v'tachti. I have full trust in your chesed. But yet, when it comes, he experiences as if it's unexpected. That's David. So David, every experience he had, it's like it was a new experience. The level of love that he had for God evoked a level of joy as if it was the first time. I'll give you an example. A person who's a great Torah sage. If you read about Rav Baruch Meir Liebowitz, Zechat Tzaddik Levrocha, the Kamatzur Yeshiva, when he would say a shir, he had said the shir 1,000 times before. Every time he would say it with the identical level of joy and intensity and patience as the first time he ever said it. It's like the first time he said it. Every time he said those words and he processed the depth and breadth of that understanding, if you heard it, you couldn't believe that he said it many times before. But it's again, because of his love for Torah. If you read about Rav Baruch Meir, the most special student, the closest student of Rav Chaim Brisker, the way he experienced it, the love is not to be described. Therefore, each time it was like the first time. This shows the chavivus, the love Avram had for God, that even though he had the communication before, but now that he's having it again, it's like the first time. Even the second time, everything pales to that because it's like the first time. And that's what he's quoting the pasuk in Tehillim, Sober smochos is panecha. Whenever I encounter your countenance, it's sober. I'm sated. It's the max. I'm maxing out on simcha. Go ahead, Mark.
Perhaps the reason why he builds the altar in commemoration of Hashem speaking to him is because he wasn't sure whether Hashem was ever going to speak to him again, and that Lech Lecha may have been a one-time occurrence, but now that it's a second time, he realizes that perhaps it will be an ongoing relationship.
So it brings a level of joy because now it gives him an understanding of what the relationship is and what will be. Good. It's good. But the Orach Chaim HaKadosh explains, why was it? Because it's Sova Smochos. It says whenever David would encounter the communication, he says it's maxing out on Simcha. Sova Smochos. And he says, Kavonas HaKosu Lahudia Haflog Schibas Avram Lakono. It's to describe the exceptional level of love that Avram had for his maker. That every time Hashem appeared to him, it was like something of one of a kind, of an experience of joy. This was an indication of the love that he had. I mean, Mark, you're saying something else. You could say, something, I feel privileged. I thought maybe it was a one-time event. Now I see, no, it's not. I have new understanding of the relationship. What you're saying is good, but the question I mainly asked was on the Orach Chaim HaKodesh, but it's very good.
Rabbi, maybe.
One second. Many years ago, my Rashiv Zechron Levrocha, he would say, it was called the Shir Kloli. He would say a public lecture to the whole yeshiva every other week. He would say shurim on a smaller level to certain groups, but the whole yeshiva every other week. And they were exceptional. He would ignite the whole yeshiva, and after he would give this public shir, everybody in the yeshiva would be speaking about it for 2-3 days. That's the excitement he evoked from all the people. And so there was a person who worked in the administration, a European Jew, and he lived in Vilna. And he was a little bit of a Talmud Chacham, and he was a secretary in the court of Reb Chaim Moser, Zechat Tzaddik Levrocha, in Vilna. And he had come in to listen to the shir. I maybe at the time was maybe 19. This man was already a man, the same age as my Rashiva, maybe a little older. He was a man in his 60s. And he says to my Rashiva after the shir, he says, the last time you learned this tractate, you said the same shir. You said the same thing. So my Rashiva says to this person, he says, if I said the same thing, could you tell it over to me right now? The man couldn't remember nothing. He just remembered the subject matter. But what he said, he didn't remember. You understand? He kept quiet. And the people standing around smiled. Like this man says, what are you saying? No, you said it before. I says, okay, if I said it before, said, could you repeat it? Had almost no recollection what the information was. And now he's saying, what are you saying the same thing over again? Okay? Understand? But it didn't make a difference. My Rashiva, when he said over share, it was with the same excitement as he said it the previous time. And he evoked the same excitement. Of course, the questions that came as a result of hearing what he had to say. But if you say, something, I've heard it before. You take it as these explain in the expression, hear it with a half an ear. I've heard it. When I was a kid, I heard it. I once had a shir. I'm not going to mention the person's name. Alan knows this person very well. And we had a shir in Ramchal in his office. It was on Madison and 61st. And one of the people, Yad Avram, he was his executive vice president. And we used this boardroom every Thursday night. We had a shir in Derech Hashem, one of the works of the Ramchal. And David Tessel, it was made up of South Africans. And it was right next to his office. And as the shir is going on, he pokes his head into the shir room, into his boardroom. And David Tessel says to him, Mr. whatever his name is, very respectfully with the South African house, would you like to join us? He has a cigar in his mouth, must be about 12 inches long. And he's biting it, clenching it between his teeth. He says, I spent 12 years in Ramaz. I had enough. And he walked out. You got it, Alan? That's the way he expressed it. He heard enough of it. But this is maybe not what you heard at Ramaz. Something. It's the same label, same identification. I've had enough. I'm out of here. But a person who has an Avos HaTorah, love, the Gemara says in Avodah Zorah that the Jewish people like fish. With Giyayim, what's Giyayim? Why we like fish? When it rains, you know what fish do? They jump out of the water and they try to grab the raindrops. You hear this? Here they're in the water. When it's a river and ocean, but when it rains, they jump out to grab the raindrop. What's going on? So the Gemara says, the love the Jew has for Torah, that even when he's immersed, if he is able to get another droplet, he can't contain himself and he's excited about it. Therefore, the Jews are compared to Yom. So what does that say? But it's Torah. It's the same thing. It's every moment is another experience, and it touches you in that special way. That sovas smochos, what it's called in the pasuk in Tehillim, sovas smochos esponecho. Whenever I engage with you, it's sovas smochos. I'm sated with joy. When Hashem had given in the first communication the command, Lech lecha mi'atzcha v'ladcha be'sadicha, he had to detach himself from his family, right? But yet he took Lot. So factually, when he followed the communication, he didn't follow it to the T. He really shouldn't have taken Lot. And we explained yesterday in Orach Chaim HaKodesh, it's only because Lot put himself upon Avram, he didn't want to push him away. That's why he was agreeable to take him. It was because it was Vayelach, that's why it was Vayikach. But you know something? Maybe that actually was, that was a deal breaker. You should have taken him. But we said, what was Avram's reason? Because he was the son of his brother, who was the first human being ever to sanctify God's name, to give his life. So the question is, did he do the right thing? Did he do the right? Maybe he did the wrong thing. If that's the case, he's not worthy of another communication. So when Hashem appeared to him, that was to him a confirmation that what he did was not incorrect. That it was the right thing, even though he told him, separate yourself from your family. Nevertheless, taking him is not a deal breaker. Proof of the pudding, he appeared to him. Therefore, it evoked that joy, because that slight degree of worry was actually resolved, clarified that he still has that same relation with God. But we're going to see a little further that after there was the dispute between the shepherds of Lot and the shepherds of Avram, Torah makes it a point. Achi pored Lot miito. After Lot separated from Avram, Hashem appears to him. And that's when Avram becomes the Merkava. He becomes the location of the Shekhinah. As long as Lot was around, Hashem wasn't a frequent visitor of Avram. That level of attachment was not there. Once he separated, Torah makes it a point, Achi Pori Lot Mito, after he separates from him, it's another level of relationship. So therefore, you see over here that Lot being there or not being there made a difference. So maybe it made a difference to the degree that it's a deal breaker. So when Hashem appears to him, this is a confirmation that no, the relationship is the same, and therefore he was ecstatic. That's why he builds the Mizbeyach, to express that joy that he had.